Welcome to the Harmony Channel. I'm Jason Whitlock, your host. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to attempt today to unpack a very difficult conversation. There's so much emotion on all sides of the Charlie Kirk assassination issue. And some of the controversy and emotion is manufactured and inauthentic, and some of it is just very real because Charlie Kirk touched a lot of people, but in particular, a lot of people that are active over social media, active in the political space, active in the influencer space. And so everybody has an opinion, everybody has a heartfelt, passion-filled opinion, and a lot of people have just grifting and just financial interest. How can I benefit from this Charlie Kirk tragedy? How can I dominate this conversation in a way or put out some content in some way that allows me to get views and traction and financial gain from this tragedy that struck Charlie Kirk? We talked about some of that yesterday as it related to Etan Thomas and the black minister out of D.C. that he platformed or drew attention to. For Etan Thomas to put out some tweet that gets 3, 4, 5 million views, you know, there's a cash register ringing. Again, it may only be an extra $500,000, whatever, from Twitter for putting out content, but he's hoping it grows his base. Now he's relevant. We're talking about him. He's put out a piece of content that puts a little change in his pocket, adds to elevates him as someone you need to, take seriously. From Benjamin Watson to putting out, this is the former NFL player, putting out something over Facebook where he's criticizing Charlie Kirk and framing him as a racist. That stuff seems inauthentic. It feels manufactured for clout. It's not a serious conversation. It's low level, low hanging fruit. Hey, I can't debate someone's ideas. I just want to say something controversial that puts me in a good light with Black Twitter. So there's a lot of that. And then, as I said, there are people who Charlie Kirk touched in a real way. Even if they didn't meet Charlie Kirk, he represented something to a lot of people. And I wrote about that on X over the weekend, about how Charlie Kirk embodied something very important: the patriarchy, faith, righteousness, holiness, engagement in the political world. And Charlie was uncomfortable with the title, but to me clearly, and there should be no discomfort with this title among believers, but Charlie to me was clearly a Christian nationalist. He wanted to impose, influence a biblical worldview on our politics. He wanted what the founders wanted. Hey, we're building a constitutional republic, not a democracy. And that's not me demonizing democracy, but there's a reason why leftists constantly talk about democracy and not constitutional republic. Because they want you to think the founders put together a democracy and where everybody voted and everybody's vote counted. They put together a constitutional republic. And there were actually pretty hard and fast limitations on who could vote. Landowners and full citizens. And Black people at that time, unfortunately, were not full citizens. And Black people could not vote. Women could not vote. And you could say, oh, women, and I don't believe in that. I don't believe everybody should vote. because now you've allowed every crank and irresponsible person equal say with responsible people. And I've always argued, or I've been arguing for being men and for taking a leadership role. As an unmarried person, I don't believe I should vote. I've been irresponsible. And I don't have a child, and so people like me don't really think about the future. They think about instant gratification, what's best for me. That's not who you want voting. I'm off on a bit of a tangent. I'm already further upstream and taking the conversation places where I shouldn't go, or I don't want to go today, because I got a lot I'm trying to get to, and I'm swimming the wrong direction right now. Someone like Candace Owens, who knew Charlie Kirk, was friends with Charlie Kirk, clearly had a tight relationship with Charlie Kirk. TPUSA and his organization elevated Candace Owens. And she watched a friend, a coworker, someone she loved, someone she credited with part of her success. She's seen the video of him being assassinated, shot in the neck. She has every right to be emotional. She has every right to be angry. She has every right to give her perspective on what she thinks might have happened. Every single right. She did that yesterday for about an hour. In my view, I watched the entire hour. I'm watching people react to it. And I'm watching people distort what she said over the course of that hour. You're not going to hear some full-throated endorsement of what Candace Owens said. You're going to hear me say she has a right to say it, she's informed about the topic, and you should listen to whatever she says and keep it in mind. This was her dear friend who she was very close with, and so her anger and emotion are obvious and should be factored into how you interpret what she said. You also have a responsibility, in my view, particularly if you want to comment on it, to watch her in full. Don't just go with the social media clips that are framed up and have a little caption and commentary that lead you one direction. Having watched the entire thing, Candace Owens did not say, and I don't think insinuated, that Israel killed Charlie Kirk. What Candace Owens says, and these aren't her exact words, but the inference of what she was saying was, I think Benjamin, and again, these aren't her words, but if you take what she's been saying previously and marry it to what she said during the course of that hour, her argument is, man, Benjamin Netanyahu is a crook and a liar and a person pursuing power and trying to hold on to power in a country where he's already under attack with his own constituents here in Israel. And she's arguing that this man has taken time out of all these battles he's fighting, not just Gaza, but all these battles, the battles he's having within, that he's taken time to comment on American television about Charlie Kirk. And Candace Owens' contention is this man, in her opinion, is everything that the American mainstream media would have you believe is true about Putin. It's actually true about Benjamin Netanyahu. The things that the American media wants you to believe, mainstream, legacy media, wants you to believe about Donald Trump. Candace Owens is like, nah, Benjamin Netanyahu is actually who you're talking about. And she's not doing this while defending Donald Trump because she's become a bit of a critic of Donald Trump. But everybody's acting like what she is saying about a world leader, a leader of a country, is beyond the pale. But you can make that argument about Donald Trump. You can make that argument about Putin. But if you make that argument about Benjamin Netanyahu, you're an anti-Semite and you don't deserve to be heard, and you're one of the most wicked, evil people on the planet. Candace Owens' argument is that Benjamin Netanyahu is trying to benefit from Charlie Kirk's assassination, trying to spread propaganda about how close he and Charlie Kirk were. And she's saying he's doing this because she thinks, oh man, Benjamin Netanyahu was uncomfortable with the way that Charlie Kirk was discussing Israel. Candace Owens clearly has a problem with the Israeli government and how they operate. There are people here in America that have a problem with Trump and the way America operates. We can all say that. We have freedom of speech. Most people would say, if you don't believe that, you're racist. But if you can say it about Donald Trump, if you can say it about Putin, if you can say it about Bolsonaro or any of these other world leaders, why can't you say it about Putin? If you can argue that, hey, Barack Obama was using drones to kill and assassinate America's enemies, or people that weren't acting in people around the globe that weren't acting in America's best interest. If you can say that American leaders are capable of taking out people in other countries that don't act in America's best interest, is Benjamin Netanyahu not a world leader? And so if you can say these things about Trump, if you can say them about Barack Obama, if you can say them about George Bush, if you can say it about Bill Clinton, why can't you say it about Benjamin Netanyahu? She's asking that question. And then she's raising the question or providing the information like, hey man, Charlie Kirk in his last days was having interviews and public conversations with Megyn Kelly about the pressure he was feeling from Zionists, from Jews. He was talking about this publicly with Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson and others have been pointing out that, and this is something I can vouch for, not on the level that Charlie Kirk was under pressure, not on the level that Candace Owens has been under pressure and others, but Tucker Carlson has become a lightning rod and a reviled figure among some Jewish people. Among Benjamin Netanyahu has a problem with Tucker Carlson. And Charlie Kirk, 31-year-old guy that builds up TPUSA, accepts all this donor money from a specific tribe demographic of people. And he's letting off signs of like, hey man, I'm under a lot of pressure that I should disavow, distance myself, not platform Tucker Carlson. And when I say that I understand this, not at the level that he felt it, but the number of people that have let me know, hey, it's not smart to be aligned with or seen as a supporter of Tucker Carlson. The number of people that have let me know you need to disavow Candace Owens. This is what's going on in this political world and this fight for power. And this is part of the reason why I've kept my distance from politics. And I'm talking about over the course of my life from age 18 to age 57 when I voted for the first time last year. It's like people in pursuit of power a lot of times turn very corrupt. And people in pursuit of power who have used their power and wealth to elevate you. There's a level of control that you surrender, even if you have no intention of surrendering it. That you know, well, I got donors and they don't like it when I say this, so I shouldn't say this. And the donors are sitting there saying, man, you know how much money I poured into whatever, TPUSA, the Daily Wire, the Blaze, whatever, that they're sitting there saying, man, I done poured a lot of money into this and I don't want them talking about this. I don't want a critic of a style of politics that I'm in support of. And so Candace Owens has a right to point this out, and it's obvious. And whether you think she's gone too far, whether you think she's doing this as an opportunist, I would say pump the brakes here. There's no one that can argue that these two people weren't friends. And when a friend gets assassinated, you should question everything. And you should question the powers and principalities, the spirits, the people in should be questioned. And so when the people in high places come out and say, well, it's Tyler Robinson, 20-year-old kid from Utah that climbed up a building, jumped off a building, changed clothes, put a rifle together, deconstructed a rifle, put it back together, planted it here, drove here, did this, did that, and killed Charlie Kirk from 200 yards away with a throat shot. And his dad turned him in. You should question all of it. And that's what Candace Owens is doing. And this isn't, I didn't hear anything that I could sit up here today and say, she's 1,000% right, she's 90% right, she's 70% right. What I say is, she's interesting, she's fair, I get where she's coming from. These are questions that need to be asked. When a foreign leader is hopping on American TV within 24 hours to frame up his relationship with Charlie Kirk and to frame up Charlie Kirk's vision and view on Israel, when we just listened to Charlie Kirk over the past month have some complaints about, man, I'm under a lot of pressure. The entire thing just, and I get that Charlie Kirk and TPS USA had grown to a level where they had international influence and world leaders are going to have something to say, but this one particular leader seems to have the loudest voice on it. Bibi Netanyahu. I don't even know whoever's in charge of the EU, the UK. I don't know what people in Africa, whoever the world leaders are in Africa, Brazil, Colombia, Canada. Who's the prime minister in Canada now? I don't know what their thoughts are on Charlie Kirk. The head of Israel has been on TV talking extensively about Charlie Kirk and reading 2 sentences from a letter. He has some sort of stake, and maybe it's out of defense because there's been so much uncomfortable conversation about Israel, and people can't believe that we've gotten here where, and I'm going to start unpacking some of these clips just to make sure I get them in. But when I see Kirk Cameron is an actor and a famous one, he's an evangelical that basically gave up his prestige and power in Hollywood so that he could continue to champion Jesus Christ. And I believe Kirk Cameron is a Calvinist, but I had never heard Kirk Cameron until yesterday offer up any position on dispensationalism. I hadn't heard him talk about Genesis and because God made a promise to Abraham that now applies to all people of Jewish descent. Hadn't heard Kirk Cameron do this. But in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk, he felt it necessary and appropriate to post his thoughts on this topic that Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson wrestled about. There's an elephant in the room, and it has to be addressed. And everybody's addressing it. And Candace Owens put out her perspective, or furthered her perspective on this elephant in the room. And it's the way people are reacting. They're giving the reaction that basically got Charlie Kirk killed, according to the government. That, Charlie Kirk and his thoughts about transgenders and all the disagreements he had about DEI and all this other stuff, that this is what triggered and got people angry and people thinking he was worthy of being canceled. And I'm watching in real time the same thing happen to Candace Owens. She's putting out her perspective that she has a right to put out, and people are going hyperbolic and basically saying she's the worst person on the planet, and you have leftists saying she deserved to be killed, and people on the right, some, saying she deserves to be shut up. But there is an elephant in the room that everybody's dealing with, and it's very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable to talk about something that we had all kind of taken for granted. Hey, God commanded us to bless Israel. And now that the can of worms has been opened up, people are questioning that, and they're questioning it publicly. Here's Kirk Cameron. Let's play SOT number 9.
We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel.
I know the verse that Tucker Carlson's talking about in Genesis actually doesn't say Israel. It says that those who bless you, Abraham, this was before Israel, will be blessed by God, and those who curse you, Abraham, will be cursed by God. Jesus demystifies who the children of Abraham actually are, and Paul absolutely clarifies it. For not all who are born into the nation of Israel are truly members of God's people. Well, that sounds like it contradicts what Ted Cruz just said. Being descendants of Abraham doesn't make them truly Abraham's children. It sounds like he's saying not all of Israel is really Israel just because they're Jewish. Israel didn't have a nation or a land to call their own for almost 2,000 years since the destruction of the temple in the year 70 AD. The nation of Israel was recreated through some political operatives after World War II. So in that almost 2,000-year period, what did it even mean to bless Israel or to curse Israel? There was no Israel per se. I think the scripture makes it clear that it's about whether you're blessing or cursing the true children of Abraham, those who believe the promises of the gospel.
So everybody is aware of the term spiritual warfare. Everybody in the faith, anybody that's any sort of Christian has heard the term spiritual warfare. And we'll take the fair out of it for now. There's a spiritual war going on. This is a battle of good versus evil, but it's in the spiritual realm. And so all these issues of faith and identity are everywhere for the past year and a half, and it started bubbling and boiling when Elon Musk took over Twitter and basically legalized free speech. It enhanced the information war that is connected to the spiritual war. And Candace Owens unpacked on her show last night that there was a private meeting, I believe, held in the Hamptons. Bill Ackman was involved. This is a billionaire that is politically involved. And Candace Owens alleges that Bill Ackman and others kind of threatened Charlie Kirk about, hey, man, you're going too far with your criticism of Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel. And what this meeting they had, this is according to Candace and others, that a lot of the discussion centered around gathering enough influencers who could influence the way people thought about Israel. It was a secret meeting about how do we support Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel's worldview on Israel. This is an information spiritual war. And everybody's uncomfortable with it because it's making people ask themselves very difficult questions. Questions that they've connected to salvation that I don't connect to salvation. I don't think I'm going to be judged on my judgment day about how I felt about Israel. I don't, and I could be wrong, but I don't believe that. And many people don't believe that. They don't think it's a salvation issue. But everyone, there's a group of people treating it like it is a salvation issue. And as I said yesterday, this is my beef with Black people and Jews. They've turned themselves into salvation issues. You cannot see the kingdom of God unless you love Israel and Black people. You cannot see the kingdom of God if you said anything to hurt the feelings of Black people or Jews. This is the reality that we're living in, and people have convinced themselves that, man, I better tread lightly, I better not say anything that anyone could construe as racist or anti-Semitic. And there are people like Candace Owens, there are people like Tucker Carlson, there are people like Dave Smith that will say, I'm not doing that. And so there's this spiritual information war going on, and we just saw with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the stakes are high. You may pay the ultimate price for being on the wrong side of this argument here in the world. And so Candace Owens, last night, Candace, remember, has converted to Catholicism. Her husband's a big-time Catholic. Candace, I think, entered the faith about a year ago, and she's pretty strident about her views. And this is everybody, again, and this is what everybody's talking about and should be talking about. But here's Candace Owens suggesting that Charlie Kirk, whose wife was baptized a Catholic, whose mother was baptized a Catholic, whose grandmother was baptized a Catholic, who people are saying Charlie Kirk's wife regularly attends Catholic Mass. So here's Candace Owens, who was friends with Charlie Kirk, who says she has text messages backing up and conversations backing up what she contends is that Charlie Kirk was wrestling with his religious point of view, ideology. Let's play SOT number 11.
Was definitely on the brink of changing some of his perspectives. And I can tell you factually, Charlie was praying the rosary. Charlie was going to mass. One of my last conversations with Charlie was me joking with him saying, just make the last step, okay? You are, I said specifically, you're too smart to be a Protestant. Just take the last step, Charlie. He says, ha ha. He was speaking about Mary. And typically when those steps start taking place, you stop referring to yourself, as I did, as a Judeo-Christian.
There are people really upset, Protestant people really upset that Candace Owens is saying that her conversations with Charlie Kirk led her to believe that he was wrestling with Catholicism and converting to Catholicism. And this has blinded people. How dare you say that about Charlie Kirk? I love Charlie Kirk. All of his public statements were, he was, a Protestant, and, he was suspicious of Catholicism. But how dare Candace Owens say this? She's the worst person in the world. I don't trust her. I don't know if it's true, but I know she was friends with the man. She's saying she's got text messages. She's threatening to release her text messages. And so it just gives me, I didn't know Charlie Kirk the way Candace Owens did. I had limited interaction with Charlie Kirk. But I buy that he and Candace were very close. And if she's lying here, she's running the risk of throwing away whatever level of credibility she has. But to say Charlie Kirk was wrestling with his faith, and particularly as it related to his point of view on Israel, if he wasn't wrestling with it, he would be outside the norm of anybody that takes faith seriously. This question is the elephant in the room. Everybody should be, because this isn't a salvation issue. This is mostly a political issue. And if you're not man enough to wrestle with this political question, it's not a salvation question. It's a political one. Do we owe a blind allegiance to a country several thousand miles away, led by Benjamin Netanyahu? Do we have to bless them to receive God's blessing? It's a worthy discussion. Having that discussion should not put, or does not put, your salvation on the line. So I'm uncomfortable discrediting Candace here. And I've seen other people on social media say, I hope Charlie Kirk's wife, Erica, comes out and addresses this and calls Candace a liar and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to preemptively question Erica Kirk. But I just want to, when you start talking about someone getting assassinated at a public outdoor event in broad daylight, shot in the neck, the first person I think about is JFK. He's driving in Dallas, middle of the day, shot in the head, his wife right next to him. How did John Kennedy's wife handle his assassination? Did she jump on TV and transparently express all of her thoughts? Or did she say, man, I got kids. I just saw my husband assassinated. I have to protect myself and my kids. And so I'm not sure if Jackie, this is, you guys fact check me on this, but I don't think she entered into the political arena and started expressing all of her thoughts, concerns. She did not become a champion of any JFK conspiracy theories. She did not become a champion of, yeah, Lee Harvey Oswald did it. I believe everything the government said. She mostly stayed out of it. Because telling the truth and being transparent has always come with the consequence of death. It's why Jesus and his disciples were put to death. So that is the price of truth. And so any of the people, and I don't care how many churches you've led, I don't care if you got 5,000 members at your church, 10,000 or 300 or 30. When people start boldly standing on the word of God, their life becomes in jeopardy. When you start really having an impact because you're standing on the word of God, your life is in jeopardy. And so most people, even ministers and even mothers, even wives whose husbands were assassinated, they choose their words very carefully because most of us fear death, and justifiably so. But I want to play a clip of Charlie Kirk, and this is in recent times, I think in the past couple of months. This is Charlie Kirk talking about secular Jews in a way that would clearly make his donors and a lot of people in the mainstream media and a lot of Zionists very, very uncomfortable and dissatisfied. And if they had donated millions of dollars, they would have a right to be very upset. Let's play SOT 12.
And Jewish donors, they have a lot of explaining to do, a lot of decoupling to do, because Jewish donors have been the #1 funding mechanism of radical, open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies, cultural institutions, and nonprofits. This is a beast created by secular Jews. And now it's coming for Jews, and they're like, what on earth happened? And it's not just the colleges. It's the nonprofits, it's the movies, it's Hollywood, it's all of it. It's like, time for you guys to wake up and say no more. Draw a line in the sand. I don't care if you hate me.
I want to play SOT number 14. This is Charlie Kirk and Megyn Kelly discussing their frustrations. Play the clip. SOT 14.
I see what's happening, and it's my job to comment honestly on it. But I am sick of being lectured on, like, you have to see it exactly as we see it and support everything, or you're against us.
So this is so important, Megyn. And again, I don't want, you cannot say everyone in the pro-Israel, and I don't say it, acts that way. But I got texts about you, Megyn, saying, why is Megyn like doing the bidding of Hamas? I was like, what are you talking about? Megyn's the best. Like, what? Like, she's amazing. And I said, why are you texting me about Megyn? And I, at that point, and so this is what they don't understand. You and I, Megyn, and Tucker is in the same category, and they've tried to go after Tucker. Yeah. Is that and the more you attack our moral character, the more we're going to double down in a direction, because 100%. Screw you, I don't do it that way, okay? Right. Like, when tell me I'm wrong. Cool. Tell me if I got my facts wrong. By the way, on the Epstein thing, Naftali Bennett says he wasn't an Epstein agent. We have to be pursuers of truth. They've denied it. Fine. Let's keep digging. Okay. Fine. But the thing that I think is being lost is, like, on some part of the population, you can scold them into silence, right? But if I have any deviation of a purity test, any deviation whatsoever, such as hosting a focus group, right, Megyn, with a bunch of our students that went viral, having Dave Smith or Tucker at my event, it is all of a sudden, oh, Charlie is he's no longer with us and all that. I said, wait a second, what do you mean? What does with us mean exactly, right? I'm an American, okay? Like, I represent this country, And I don't even understand that paradigm, but
that's Charlie Kirk and Megyn Kelly complaining like, hey, man, we've been great supporters. We got a few questions. Now, all of a sudden, we're the worst people on the planet. Candace Owens yesterday pointing out, hey, they had a private meeting led by Bill Ackman or financed by Bill Ackman for Charlie Kirk and trying to use him to influence young Americans' views on Israel. Just the thought, allegedly, according to Ken, there was hundreds of millions of dollars offered for a propaganda campaign or a influence campaign. Don't put a negative context, an influence campaign for how we view a foreign nation. This is serious stuff that should require serious questions. And everybody needs to man up and quit trying to shut this conversation down. Because when I hear people trying to shut the conversation down, what I hear is, man, there's a financial price to pay if I have this conversation. Charlie Kirk's donors, according to all these reports, were starting to back away from him because of his relationship with Tucker Carlson, because he wouldn't disavow the right people, Tucker and Candace. As someone who, I believe it was August, and Hadley, correct me if I'm wrong, I was scheduled to go to Arizona and speak for Charlie and participate in an event in Arizona in August. And I'm not trying to make too much of myself. I'm really not. But as someone who has experienced in the last calendar year, people go after my speaking engagements and shut down my speaking engagements and cancel my speaking engagements because some donor or donors, I'm thinking of one particular case though, it was a single donor. Man, we don't like the way Jason talks about Israel. Okay, and Jason, we're got bad news for you. We're not going to allow you to speak here. We got to cancel it. We have a donor that doesn't like what you represent, doesn't like your relationship with Tucker Carlson. These are experiences that I'm living. And trust me, Charlie Kirk, it's not that I shared that story, but Charlie Kirk is very much aware. All you got to do is read my Wikipedia page. All you got to do is pay attention to how the ADL operates. I'm toxic. And Charlie Kirk inviting me to participate in a TPUSA event in Arizona alongside him is not what his donors are comfortable with. Because of where the conversation has moved. And not saying this to celebrate myself. I'm not. I'm just factually telling you. I've been ahead of this conversation. I've been saying like, hey man, unless we answer these questions, we're going to lose young people because young people are having this conversation. And you can ignore it, you can leave it alone. Oh, it'll all go away. No, it's not going away. Now I'm going to play you the clip. I'm going to circle back and show you some, but I'm going to play you the clip that really that's not really, but I would say, is at the heart of this deal in a real way. And you'll say, well, this is Nick Fuentes talking smack. But this is the reality of what's going on in the conservative movement. The Groypers and Nick Fuentes have a lot of influence. And there are people that think you're just going to ignore Nick Fuentes away, and you're not. Has to be dealt with. Has to be explained, has to be heard and explained. But here's Nick Fuentes talking about what he did to TPUSA, play SOT 13.
Whether he chooses to confront me or not, whether he has dignity and honor or not, it's just a matter of time. My ideas are already there. I've already impregnated your organization. I took Turning Point USA and I f***ed it. I took your organization, I took your baby, Turning Point USA, and I f***ed it. And I've been f***ing it. And that's why it's filled with groypers. That's why your whole crew, that's why the people around you, that's why your chapter presidents, that's why your attendees, they're all groypers. So whether you choose to confront me or not over the honor of your Turning Point USA, it's immaterial to me. I'd like it. I just get a sick satisfaction out of it because I like to win. But we're already there. And this whole ideology, Zionism plus free market, it's dead either way. You know it. I know it. Pretty much the whole world knows it's over. In the last 7 years, who's moved closer to who? Could anybody accuse me of stealing Charlie Kirk's ideas? No. Has Charlie Kirk every step of the way moved in degree closer to me? Tried to ape my bit, my ideas, my style? Oh, no question. No question. We already own you. We own you. We own Turning Point USA. We own this movement. Whether you decide to have dignity about it and face me or not, that's up to you. That's something you'll have to tell your children. When Nick Fuentes became the future, when the Groypers took over the movement, did you take a valorant last stand? Were you courageous? Were you bold? Did you go down swinging or did you go down like a bitch? Did you run and hide? That's the only thing when you're explaining that to your family, Mr. Family Man. When you're explaining to your wife, when she's saying, why won't you just debate Nick Fuentes? And you got to explain to her. When your kids grow up, why didn't you just confront Nick Fuentes? You got to explain to them why you were afraid, why you were a coward. That's the only difference. Immaterial to me. We already won. But anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to take a look at this.
You don't have to like you. I don't. I don't trust you. I think these questions about pedophilia and the gay stuff have to be answered. I think that a lot of his king, but I think it's all bogus and it's a covering, it's a mask, it's not legitimate. But what is legitimate is that his worldview, his tribe, his view on Israel is controlling, influencing a lot of young people. And anybody that's upset about it needs to be upset at the people that thought, hey, let's just ignore it. It'll go away. That reaction, that strategy is blowing up in everybody's face. And it's why we're losing the spiritual war and the information war. It was a dumb, cowardly strategy. And the consequences, the receipts, the ramifications of that dumb, cowardly strategy is coming to bear right now. And Charlie Kirk was wrestling with it. The young people were asking him questions. He's having town hall meetings and conversations with the young men within his organization about Israel. They tried to have some out in public. They've tried to massage the issue. Charlie Kirk, in my view, just from way on the outside looking in, was like, hey man, this strategy of not addressing it, not talking about it, pretending like everything Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu does has to be stamped with a seal of approval. It doesn't work. It's not, it's costing us young men that we could be leading to Christ. It's turning that audience over to Nick Fuentes. And his argument, Candace Owens' argument is, this is all being done at the behest of Benjamin Netanyahu. That a man that's been in power too long, is too corrupt, isn't really supported in his own nation. He has to be criticized. He has to be subject to the same level of scrutiny and criticism as Donald Trump. If we can do it to Trump, how come we can't do it to a foreign leader? And miss me with dispensationalism. I can't criticize Bibi, a political figure, someone I believe is a corrupt political figure. I can't question him without being accused of anti-Semitism that shuts down the entire conversation. She has every right to air that complaint. It's a complaint that is 1,000% legitimate. When people are in a fight to hold on to power, it's why I've told you all, and I'm sorry for making this reference on this channel. It's not that, because it may be beneath some of y'all, but if you watch the TV show Game of Thrones, it was seasoning, it was preparation for your mind to explain to you who are these people in power and what lengths will they go to keep power. That's what Game of Thrones was about, if you watched it from a biblical lens. And I know that's tough because they got all kinds of things going on in there, and it's hard. But I got to give George R.R. Martin and halfway HBO some credit. And I know HBO is a demonic force, but maybe they didn't know what they were doing, but they told on the people in power. They went Ephesians 6 and 12. These demons, these evil people in high places, these sexual degenerates, I'm sorry, but it's just facts. The people that openly reject Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, you got to question them. I want to continue, and Candace Owens, SOT 16, this is her explaining, in her view, based on her interactions, that Charlie Kirk declined an invitation to Israel. Play SOT 16.
And I know for a fact that Charlie denied that funding, that Charlie denied, and what Bibi didn't include there, he declined to go to Israel for, I would describe this as like, re-education camp. We've seen it. You made an uh-oh, but we can help you. We just need you to come out to Auschwitz and take a picture. Yeah. We just need you to come to the Holocaust Museum and take a photo. We just need you to go to Israel and we can make this better. Charlie said no to Bibi. Okay. Bill Ackman, if you would like to dispute that, I would love to hear what you say happened, because our sources and what we have, it's solid. Okay. There were conversations that took place, messages that were sent at that time, and they are solid. So I decided another person that was there, and I am not surprised this person was there. If you've been listening to my show, Seth Dillon, I was going to go out to Seth Dillon, and I decided to message him last night about this Hamptons meeting. And Seth Dillon, who is normally very quick with a response, has not yet been able to respond. I'll show you this text message chain. And I want to be clear, I am not someone who normally publicizes text messages. But my friend was shot in the neck. And I'm just not really in the state right now to be polite when it comes to the answers that I am demanding, okay? This is me out to Seth Dillon last night. I sent him Bill Ackman's tweet because, he tweeted, I feel incredibly privileged to have spent a day and shared a meal with Charlie Kirk this summer. He was a giant of a man. I said, any comment on this one, Seth? He didn't answer last night. This morning I said, need a comment ASAP, please. He didn't answer. Then I followed that up and I said, trying again here, you were present when Ackman lost his mind on Charlie and when Bibi invited him to Israel and Charlie refused. Text messages immediately following this meeting are circulating. I find Ackman's statement, as though the meeting was somehow cordial, to be incredibly disturbing. Are you at all disturbed by that tweet? Do you feel, as I do, that this tweet significantly betrays the defined purpose and mood of his, and I presume your, final meeting with Charlie Kirk, ? He was unable to speak to me, but he did place some frantic calls to Turning Point USA. Yeah.
So that's Candace Owens. Now I want to play you Max Blumenthal, who is a Jew, but he's one of these Jews that Jews are allowed to hate and call him a sellout and a traitor and an evil person. Max Blumenthal gets the same treatment I get from black leftists. So the majority of black people. I'm an Uncle Tom and I'm a sellout and I'm a traitor because I don't toe the black leftist line. That's what Max Blumenthal, I just want you to understand, he and Glenn Greenwald are framed as Jewish sellouts. And I don't know what the Jewish word is for Uncle Tom, but Max Blumenthal is an Uncle Tom, like Glenn Greenwald. These guys that won't toe the Jewish narrative line and won't blindly support Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu, these guys that view Benjamin Netanyahu like every other world leader, someone who holds a lot of power and will do immoral, corrupt things to maintain that power. That people argue that about Donald Trump all the time. No one bats an eye or no one says you got to be removed from society. You say it about Benjamin Netanyahu, you're one of the worst people on the planet. But here's Max Blumenthal talking about Charlie Kirk walking out and refusing to take the trip to Israel, play SOT 17.
More people started coming out and more people started talking, and people were talking to me. And these were people who had knowledge of a tumultuous, stormy meeting held in the Hamptons during the first week of August, convened, according to multiple sources, with knowledge of this meeting, intimate knowledge of this meeting, by the billionaire ultra-Zionist financier Bill Ackman, who's close to Netanyahu and his kind of network in the United States. Charlie Kirk was summoned along with an array of young, sort of vapid, very avaricious conservative influencers who seem to be sort of in Israel's back pocket to set a very pro-Israel tone for this meeting. And Charlie Kirk was, according to one source, hammered by Ackman and others for allowing Israel critics, very prominent conservative voices like Megyn Kelly, Tucker Carlson, or the anti-Zionist Jewish comedian Dave Smith, to appear at his events. And actually, Charlie Kirk was planning to host many of these same figures again in December, and he had just added to his TPUSA major, I think it's called America Fest in December, the premier critic of Israel in Congress. I didn't say Republican critic, I just said premier critic, because that's what she is now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, which really reflected his shifting views. And Ackman, according to multiple sources, had this meeting to basically bully Charlie Kirk into submission. Charlie Kirk walked away, according to one person, feeling like there was an attempt to blackmail him. He refused any offers of funding and also refused the offer to travel to Israel and meet with Netanyahu, which Netanyahu disclosed in the wake, the immediate wake of Netanyahu's death. He talked about this letter, but he didn't say whether Charlie Kirk refused or accepted. I've learned since that he refused.
So that's Max Blumenthal. And maybe he's an Uncle Tom sellout to Jewish people, and maybe he hates himself as I hate black people for telling them the truth or telling them what I believe to be the truth. Maybe Max Blumenthal for Jewish people, maybe he hates his Jewishness and he's a sellout, but that's what he's arguing. And he's been a pretty solid source of information and reporting and journalism for quite a long time. Now, he is reviled again, like Glenn Greenwald, for being a sellout. I have plenty of experience with people thinking I'm a sellout for telling black people, put down your racial idolatry. Quit looking at the world through this racial lens. Put down your tribalism. Max Blumenthal, not a tribalist. And so I think the next thing I want to show you is just back Tucker Carlson. I believe this was yesterday, on with Megyn Kelly, I believe, but he's questioning Benjamin Netanyahu. Let's play SOT 20.
I think the reason that Charlie was able to bridge the gap, particularly in foreign policy, is because he had, for example, genuine affection for Israel, which he expressed to me in private many, many times. Like, I love Israel. I don't think we should have another forever war, regime change war against Iran. And I think that made complete sense to me. I sort of agree with that, actually. And so it allowed both sides to talk to him because they felt like this person doesn't hate me. It doesn't need to get existential. It's not about disliking me or some weird bigotry. But I don't think it's helpful for people to jump in, particularly foreign heads of state, to say, this is what, he lived for my cause or whatever. That's disgusting, actually. Don't do that. That turns everybody off. You don't help your own cause by doing that. And it's also literally untrue. So I just hope that we can continue in, I'm not exaggerating, the spirit that he operated in, which is one of love for other people, including people we disagree with, and don't make it, as small bore as that. That doesn't help. It did worry me, because I think your description is perfect. He was one of the very few who took that message and stood by it. I mean, right to the very end. This cannot get bigger. We don't want another regime change war. But man, some of the people who send money to Turning Point, his donors, were very tough on him. So tough on him that I could feel it. I talked to him a lot in the last few months, and he was under enormous pressure. He never bent. He never became bitter.
He kept his integrity to the very end.
To the very end. And I just think it's important to say that because it's true.
Absolutely.
And so, just to correct, that was Tucker talking with J.D. Vance yesterday. J.D. Vance hosted Charlie Kirk's radio show podcast yesterday, had Tucker on as a guest. That was Tucker talking to J.D. Vance, talking about the pressure that Charlie Kirk was under. Does any of it, I want to be clear, does any of this, the pressure he's under, does any of it prove, clearly Israel did it? No, it does not. But it puts into context the kind of pressure that Charlie Kirk was under at the age of 31, leading an organization that people had a special retreat for in the Hamptons, and according to these sources, offered up $100+ million if you can influence young people the direction we want them to go as it relates to Israel. Clearly, this is a very important person. And if he's turned down this and said, nah, I'm good, and if my donors walk away, I got enough other funding that I'll be good. In the history of geopolitics, international politics, he would not be the first person taken out by government forces, foreign government forces. It's what world leaders do. And we all see it and accept it. When it's Obama, when it's Clinton, when it's George Bush, when it's Joe Biden, when it's Donald Trump, no one thinks that commentary is beyond the pale. But when it's Israel, you're on the ADL hit list if you make that suggestion. And everybody runs around and says you're one of the worst people on the planet and you're an anti-Semite and you don't deserve opportunities to make a living, feed your family, have success in America. And so when you're hearing a lot of people completely uncomfortable with engaging in this conversation, you're hearing a lot of people say, hey, man, I got a lot of money on the line. I don't know if my church can survive without the money I get, the opportunities I get. Look, if I never address these issues, I could, collecting a $30,000 check for spending an hour giving a speech somewhere, could do it all the time. I've done it. But because I occasionally talk about this issue and express an opinion that the ADL thinks is wrong, I'm persona non grata. These are facts. Tucker Carlson's dealing with it at a much higher level than what I'm talking about. Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, they're much higher level. There is immense pressure. There's financial pressure. And so I get the churches, the ministers, that many of them don't want to talk about it. They've taken on too many other battles. They're weary. And they have to sit around and think like, man, all the great things I do in my community, many of them would have to go away if I get on the wrong side of this argument. There's some financial consequences that will stop this church from being able to serve this community the way that I enjoy or we have been serving this community. I get the pressures. It's a tough choice. At the end of the day, God will provide. You got to believe it. And I in no way, now I'm just telling you, I'm a wretched person, but I have been willing to walk away from a lot of money just so I could say Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, Jesus Christ, anytime that I want. Trust me, if I didn't want to talk about Jesus and I wanted to keep my mouth shut on things that my eyes have been open to, I could make a lot more money. And I could sleep a lot better at night. And people wouldn't be going on podcasts talking real spicy and salty about me. People wouldn't be tracking and trying to figure out where I move and where I might be vulnerable. I could have a much more peaceful life. But, not a brag, it's just a fact. I fear God more than I fear anything. I really authentically do. I want to, one other thing that's connected to this. People have seen the Pam Bondi. She's our Attorney General. And she's talking about penalizing, criminalizing, going after people for hate speech. And this is where this is all going. They want to make us like the UK and these other places where you can get thrown in jail, for Canada, for saying the wrong things. There is no hate speech. It's a made-up deal. In America, we have free speech. And in order to have free speech, people got to be able to say some nasty, dirty, stupid, irresponsible stuff. There's a price for free speech. And the price is stupid speech. And that's an American concept, principle, value. Pam Bondi, we got an attorney general, a sitting attorney general, that's comfortable going on camera saying this. It blew my mind, play SOT 10.
There's free speech and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie, in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you. If you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything, and that's across the aisle.
That's insanity. That's someone who clearly doesn't understand the founding of this constitutional republic, clearly doesn't understand the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights. That's someone who needs to be removed from office post haste today. And I say that's not hyperbole. She's unqualified for her position. And we're moving to a place where there's only 3 women I want to hear from as it relates to any political conversation. Candace Owens, Shamika Michelle, and Marjorie Taylor Greene. Everybody else can just shut up. You ain't got a bat and balls. I don't want to hear from you. This is it. And not that a man isn't capable of being this stupid, because he is. But these 2 women sitting on chairs, cackling at each other and talking about there's hate speech and there's free speech. And there's no room for hate speech, and we gotta lock them out. Not built for this, not tough enough for this, or perhaps installed because they're so easily manipulated. Finally, I'm going to end here with Candace Owens, and this was somewhat the most compelling thing she said yesterday. She basically said, like, if y'all keep pushing me and y'all keep questioning me and y'all think I'm lying, I'm going to release all of my text messages. And that was the most compelling part of her argument. It's like, man, she's going to drop all the receipts. If anybody wants to question what I'm saying, I'm going to drop all the receipts through text message. And I hear that as like, man, she going to expose her text message between her and Charlie about some very sensitive stuff. And, you know, I really don't want her to do it because I think it would be a violation of this man's privacy and any of these people. But it does make her sound more credible. And before I play this clip, I want to reiterate, I don't think Candace Owens argued yesterday, Israel killed Charlie Kirk. I think she argued that Benjamin Netanyahu is a corrupt, power-hungry politician who went out on TV and put out a narrative about his relationship with Charlie Kirk and TPUSA, and that raises eyebrows to me. Why would this man lie or put out a manipulated version of their relationship and Charlie's feelings? And it just raises questions. And there's one thing, this is Candace Owens, one thing I know about world leaders is, man, if you become a problem, they will take you out. They feel that that's their job. That's what I heard Candace Owens argue. Did Benjamin Netanyahu, was he involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk? I don't believe so because I just haven't seen any concrete evidence of it. Does Candace Owens have a right? And is it fair for her to raise these questions when she knew Charlie Kirk and contends she knew his struggle with his faith and with his position on Israel? Yeah, I think she's got a right to make those arguments. Doesn't mean I have to believe it all. Doesn't mean I have to believe any of it. But I'm not going to pretend like Candace Owens went out here and did the most irresponsible thing in the world, and oh my, she's a monster and she must be shut down. I just can't do it. Not going to do it. So here's SOT 18, and we'll end the show. We'll land the plane here with Candace threatening to release all of her text messages.
I'm one of the Masons of Turning Point USA. You put a shill in Charlie Kirk's chair, in Charlie Kirk's company, and you try to tell us to follow that individual, I will be an enemy of you. There will be nothing that can stop me. Okay? And I want you guys to understand, this is not a threat. This is a promise. There will be nothing that can stop me. I will release every single text message. So to those of you who are trying that, I'm seeing the messages, I am telling you to back off right now. Like right now, don't do it, okay? Don't you think about it. I know exactly who you are. I know exactly who you were that were exerting pressure. Don't you pretend to be noble now and say nice things about Charlie Kirk and think you're going to slide into his chair, okay? Over my dead body, which I'm sure can be arranged.
All right, I've said enough for today. Thank you guys for watching. We will play Harmony, and we'll see you tomorrow or the next day.
Up so divided, stop fighting and stand tall. We used to be a nation, one united. Now we're headed for downfall.